Davey.
I'm Mamba.
And this is Off the Record.
Welcome, everybody. We're here off the record. I'm Toby Christie, not Davey Segal. I don't know. Where is Davey? That's weird. Anyway, I'm joined by another David. David Schildhouse. What do we call you? What's your name?
Wow. You pay me money to be on my virtual race cars. You don't even know how to say my name. This is a great relationship.
Hey, it's
I'm
wonderful.
David Schildhouse.
There it is.
I answer to a lot of things, but not last place. I don't answer to that.
Although I hear there's gift cards for that this year.
Because of you.
Actually, DoorDash. We'll have to credit them. But yeah, I'm the one who gives them away. But yes, we'll have to thank DoorDash for that. How about this? We've got Matt Stallknecht, co-owner of the Monday Night Racing League. It's a wonderful sim racing league that you can find on YouTube, Twitch, everywhere. Talk about that a little bit, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, you know, for those that follow iRacing, Monday Night Racing has become kind of one of the bigger leagues, and you know, Ford is our founder, and, you know, owner of the league, and you know, I've been kind of helping out more and more on. Started off as a driver, and now kind of taking on, you know, kind of a strategic leadership role in the league, which has been a lot of fun. Kind of wearing both hats on the driver's side and kind of the leadership side. But I mean, I think Ford definitely could probably even speak more to it. I mean, you've kind of seen it grow from the beginning. I came in season 2, and have kind of been helping out more and more the last season or so. On the leadership side, but it's been a lot of fun. You know, the league's grown pretty significantly, and it's been a great thing to be a part of. Help shepherd.
Yeah. Now, Ford, let's bring you into the conversation here. Ford Martin, of course, you do a lot of stuff in the real world racing world, but as far as the virtual stuff goes as well, talk to our viewers who are primarily people that like short track racing or real world NASCAR racing and stuff like that. How do they get involved with your product? How do they consume it? And maybe tell them what it brings to them as far as, you know, similarities to real world racing.
Kind of going back to, we really like to think of our league as almost like an SRX type or the Pro Invitational. Basically, we invite a lot of drivers from the motorsports community, whether it's being an NHRA, Supercross. You know, we've had some big time streamers here. A couple different guys in the league that are from multiple different backgrounds and diversity within motorsports. And we consider that a very, you know, a strong portion of our league. And that's kind of why what's made us so popular, because of all these different guys and backgrounds. It's almost kind of had the idea of what TJ Major started when COVID first started, the replacements. You know, you had your Tim Duggars, you know, you had Kyle Lawns, AJ McCarron's racing with your Ron Caps, a couple spotters, different NASCAR drivers in the league. And we've kind of transformed, kind of took some ideas from what they had and TJ Majors had. He actually races in our league now. And I think it's nice and popular because the sim race community and NASCAR or motorsports in general has become so close and everybody knows each other. And like I said, you can't really keep a secret around the motorsports garage. And it's basically the same thing with Monday Night Racing. You know, everyone has started to know what MNR is about. And when you have someone that you watch, whether it's, you know, you follow them on Twitter or you watch them stream a couple races or really there are a couple late model drivers like a Landon Huffman out there, you know, it just kind of shows the more people you know in the league, you know, it's like, hey, I know that guy, I know this guy. Wow, I really know a lot of these people in the league. I follow them and didn't realize it. So I think this kind of makes us strong as far as there's so many people with so many different backgrounds within the Monday Night Racing League.
Yeah, no, definitely. I love the product. I love what I see on there because you don't know who's going to be there every week when you tune in. There could be a new big name like Dale Jr. will pop in every now and again, Kyle Busch. And of course, you got David here. David, Matt, Ford, you guys all compete in there. So it's really cool to see all the different varying names.
I don't know if I would say I would compete. I'm just there. But I don't know if I would say I compete, though.
What is your best finish, by the way, Ford?
It's second 3 times. So
well, that's competing.
If you want to count an exhibition race, it's a win. It was a Thursday Night Thunder race earlier this year, but we're not going to count that. But it was for $200, so I will count that.
For some crap if he tried to claim that exhibition win as his best.
So Ford, you show up in the big money races, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I think we need like a more big money race that we can put up. So we'll get some, Toby, if you want to have DoorDash come on and put like 1,000 to win, I'm sure I would probably show up in that race or something like that.
We'll have to do something like that for sure. We'll have to figure out some big races. I think that'll draw some stuff. So that'd be cool. David, so let's talk about your history, your background. How did you get into e-racing first off, and what's changed in the world since you've been involved?
I was thinking about that. It's been a quarter of a century, more or less, since I got into it. A lot's changed. A lot has changed in the world. A lot's changed in sim racing. It's phenomenal to think about, because I started racing on computers in the mid 90s with NASCAR Racing 2 is where it started for me in 95. I started racing online against other people in the early 2000s, back in NASCAR Racing 2003, like open speedway days, like, and it's just to think about how much has changed since then. I've been on iRacing since 2009. So I've seen just about everything there's been to see, I think, in the world of sim racing. And there's not a lot of people in the community that I think have that sort of longevity. A lot of them, have fallen out or just never made the next step up to iRacing. It was a big divider at that time, making that change. So, technology has changed. Racing itself has changed. The games themselves, the sims have changed certainly a lot. But I think the biggest change has been the overall acceptance from the world at large, especially the racing community, the real life racing community. There's a lot more acceptance. There's a lot more support. You see a lot more crossover than you ever did. The things that we talk about now in a league like Monday Night Racing, where you have these names racing against average Joes like me, that was only a pipe dream, back in the day. If you had told me that we'd have sponsors, big money sponsors, not just, 10, 20 bucks to sponsor a race like we used to do, for fun money, but legitimate payouts and live events like we did for the Monday Night Racing Championship event at the end of season 4. These were things that were just pipe dream ideas, 5, 6, 7 years ago that we talked about. Wouldn't it be nice if we could do this? Wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? That's what every conversation started with, was, wouldn't it be cool if? Now the conversation is, let's do this. We've got the people to do it. And that's probably for me, the biggest change that I've seen is the willingness and the ability to move forward with doing really cool stuff to make sim racing feel more like the real side of things for a lot of people. Because for most of us, the large majority of people who sim race, that's as close as they're ever going to get to achieving the real thing. And that's why it's such an appealing hobby, because you don't have, it's still expensive, but it's not to the same level on a relative basis of what it costs to go racing in the real world. So for a lot of us, this is as close as it gets, and we want it to feel as real as possible. And so in today's modern world, with all the support that we get from up above, from sanctioning bodies and companies who want to get involved, and all the talented people who work really hard, and it's not their job, it's their hobby. Guys like Matt and Ford, where this is a side hustle for them. They have their day jobs, and they put what little time they have aside from that into making a league like Monday Night Racing happen. It's all very exciting, and to be part of it still at this point, 20, 25 years later, to see how much has changed, it's pretty cool.
The interesting thing about it, you talked about the how it's very similar to real life. There are differences. Obviously, you don't have G-forces and stuff like that, but the cost of it is so much less. And I take away your opening race at Daytona and Martinsville, those first 2 races, a lot of real world cars would have been torn up if we would have done exactly what you guys did there. So I think from that aspect, things are definitely a lot less expensive. But from the standpoint of what you guys are saying, I think a lot of people that are watching e-racing in general, they kind of tune in here and there and kind of bounce around, try to find which event they want to watch. It's kind of hard. There's a lot going on. So what is it in there that helps differentiate the Monday Night Racing League, and what is it that's out there for everyone, and how does everyone find all of this stuff? Is it just hoping to find the right night on Twitch, or is there a central hub where everybody can go to kind of get everything?
I think what differentiates Monday Night Racing is, and Ford kind of made a really interesting mention to kind of SRX, and I think that's a really good comparison. And as far as how Monday Night Racing kind of fits into the mix, and when you look at the makeup of the league, you have guys like David and Ford and myself who are just average Joes, kind of quote unquote. We all have real jobs, real careers, and we just kind of, this is a labor of love, and we're all big race fans, and we've been involved in the industry in different capacities, different points in our career. So you have guys like us, but then you also have guys kind of on their way up in the world of real racing, guys like James Bickford, Ryan Vargas, just to name a few of David's teammates. But those are guys are really good examples, because I look at, especially, Bickford and Vargas, because those are guys that are trying to build a platform to advance their real life racing. And I think that's probably the best use case for real life drivers in Monday Night Racing. And then you have, guys like David, and then we have some other streamers that are involved in the league, and people kind of who have made a name for themselves in sim racing. So you have this really interesting mix of personalities, and I think that's what ultimately makes the league stand out and what makes it really great. And the other kind of piece that sits on top of that is the fact that you have this mix of personalities, but they all typically have an audience that comes with them. Certainly not myself and Ford, but more so like David with his Twitch audience. You guys got guys like Garrett Smithley, and again, Vargas, I mentioned him, who they stream on Twitch, and they have a big audience coming from both the real world side and the sim racing side. So it brings a really interesting mix of different viewers into the league who have different interests with different kind of drivers. And it's exciting for them to be able to watch people that they may just be friends with or know in real life, who are just kind of quote unquote average people, get to race against Kyle Busch and Dale Earnhardt Jr., who regularly both race in our league. For them, it's just guys like those, they're celebrity tier drivers. They're just coming in to have fun. It's competitive. The skill level's pretty high in the league. So they, if you get a win or you get a good finish in the league, it's a feather in their cap for their sim racing side. So I think there's so many different things that a driver can kind of gain from participating in it, and certainly that a viewer can gain from watching it. And I think as the league evolves, I think the hope is that whether you're a streamer or somebody that's maybe just kind of involved in the industry and wants to kind of build a name for themselves, Monday Night Racing is a way to do it, even if it's just to network and just advance your own career outside of racing. We've gotten to meet so many people. I certainly feel like I have in the racing and kind of broader sports marketing world through racing and Monday Night Racing. I feel like it's kind of helped me, in my own career. And I think other people outside, I'm certainly not going to be stepping into a real life race car probably at any point. I'd love to, maybe one day, but I'm 29 at this point. That's probably not a realistic dream for me, but I could certainly make connections that can help me in my real job. So that's something that I can get. And then I look at somebody like James Bickford, who's very much still trying to keep the dream alive for racing in real life. And Monday Night Racing has helped people like him. Brad Perez get sponsorships. Brad's a great example. Brad mentioned to us that Monday Night Racing was part of the reason he was able to secure a sponsor for a real life truck series race. I know he's done some ARCA racing too. So Monday Night Racing is a platform to help him grow and get some attention that can help advance his real world racing. So we want to be able to get all types of people from all of those different buckets involved, so that they can get that benefit too.
That's absolutely incredible. Really cool to hear that this league is actually helping people vault their real life racing careers as well. So that's really, really cool. And it's giving people a platform to race against maybe some of their heroes, which is really awesome. So good stuff so far. Let's take a quick break here on Off the Record. We'll be right back, and we'll talk. I want to talk about real world events with this virtual world racing. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we're back. Off the Record is here yet again. We're talking. This is a special esports edition, eRacing. We've got eRacer David Schildhouse, whatever you want to be called. Matt Stallknecht, Ford Martin from Monday Night Racing. Thanks everyone for being here. Appreciate you guys. Let's talk about, you kind of touched on it, David, in the last segment. I think it was you that touched on it. The Monday Night Racing season finale. Maybe it was Matt. I'm not sure, but there was a real world event. I went to it. It was incredible. There was a huge turnout, crazy energy there as everybody was racing virtually, but people were able to come to the event and watch people race virtually. It was a electric event. Let's talk about that first off, and what the future holds for these real world events for virtual racing.
I'll take this one right here. And yeah, like it's you look at what we did with, and I know before there's some talk about the first LAN event for esports, for racing esports, that is. And we had the NASCAR Heat Series, did a lot of stuff with the gaming part, but to be kind of iRacing's first LAN event where kind of everybody came together, and it's kind of touching on what Matt said, talking about it was there. A lot of people were there for the esports event itself, but it was also a networking event, because you looked at all these people that wanted to come out, just to watch. This is the first ever iRacing land event. This is a new thing, neat thing everyone's getting into. But you saw a lot of people were there just to network, kind of say, hey, I follow you on Instagram. Hey, I follow you on Twitter. That's something that we're proud of, and hopefully people walked away from that saying like, wow, this is a good stepping stone. Obviously there was some things I think we personally, and I'm a nitpicker, and I'm all about the details. Anybody that knows me. So I think there's things that we could probably get a little bit better, but I'm very proud of like what our team put together. This is even our full-time gig, and to put this together with a very, very limited budget and do what we did. I think there's a lot to, pat ourselves in the back about, and what we can take going into another event. That's the plan. We want to, the plan is to do something again at the end of this season, have another live championship event. Obviously TBD on all those details, but yeah, that's something that everyone's proud of. That's what I think is the future of esports, to really gauge more people and kind of have that networking, plus being there for the live event itself, from everything from the driver intros to just driver interaction. You have your Landon Huffmans there with your Brad Perez's and your Anthony Alfredos, and put your championship 4 up on stage, your Vargas, Schildhouse, Cabot, and Vargas. That was it was something where everybody can come together, enjoy the event that we had, and that's something that we're very proud of that we were able to accomplish. And like I said, hopefully we'll make it bigger and better for the next one.
It was a cool atmosphere. I know when David was battling in the closing laps there with Adam, and they were getting pretty close. I mean, you could hear the people were oohing and ahhing as things were happening. So it was really cool. It had that real life feeling, even though it was a virtual race where people knew that one of them crashes, nobody's dying, nobody's going to get injured in the wall, but it still meant something. There were still stakes. You could tell both guys really wanted it. So I took that away from that event, that a lot of people go, oh, it's just a game, who cares? It really felt like a real event. And it was
funny enough, it was our cleanest race we have probably ever had as a league, and it couldn't happen at a better day. So that worked out pretty well.
Aside from old Van Gisbergen, huh?
Not for Colin Vernon though. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, so it was an excellent event. It was really cool. David, I think you were at another real life virtual racing event this past week, right?
Yeah, we at the Charlotte Phoenix had our own live event for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series event just this past Tuesday, which was history for that series. That's the top level on the oval side for iRacing. And it was our 2 drivers, Graham Bolin, Colin Keister, live on stage, the same, sort of idea as what we did with Monday Night Racing. Oh, James Bickford is literally calling me right now. That's really strange. It's like he knew we were talking about him. So it was our 2 drivers on stage against the 2 drivers from Junior Motorsports, Briar LaPrade and Michael Conti. And it's never been done before, not for the Coke series. And you're really cool to be a part of history twice, I guess you could say, of 2 live events in the iRacing world. And to do it at that level, to prove that you can do that and have it be successful, have it not impact the racers, I think was really, really big, because I think that's been one of the biggest missing elements for our space, is that live event, that togetherness, because at the end of the day, we all do sim racing separately. It's a isolated activity more often than not. But you see in other esports, large events, whether it's Rainbow Six, League of Legends, Rocket League, hell, even the Formula One esports championship does live events where all their drivers are on one stage. So I think that's really been a missing element for iRacing, especially on the oval side, for a series as prestigious as the Coke series, to be able to say, yeah, we can do that too. And so for us as the Charlotte Phoenix to move forward, and we have a unique advantage with the Carolina Esports Hub as our home base. Nobody else has an event space like that, where you have that stage, all that space to have people, and all the potential that comes with that. And so to have used it twice to put on live events, one for Monday Night Racing, one for the Coke series, and have them both be, from an event standpoint, a success, I think is a huge step forward for our space. It takes a lot more support, takes a lot more people, but it's sort of, I look at it as a proof of concept that it can be done with the right people involved, and that will add that next big interactive element to get more people interested, get them involved, get them in the door, and show them what our space, our hobby, and our competitive esport is all about. So I would love to see more of them. I think that's a very important thing to focus on going forward. But granted, not everybody has the capability of doing that. You have to have a space. So luckily for us, we have that space. It worked out really well Tuesday. We almost had a win. Graham was very close to getting a win for us. I think Bickford had a mild heart attack, and I was pacing around very nervously. But and you take away all that stuff just to put the event together, bring people together who otherwise may never meet each other or come out and see something like that. I think that was really cool. Hopefully iRacing noticed that and will put more of a focus to put maybe initiative together to make that happen in the future. The big goal, I think we all want to see, the championship race for the Coke Series as a live event. That's something that's already being discussed. I doubt we're going to get all 40 together at one time, but if we get the championship 4 together on stage like that, I think that would be incredible.
Now, another question I had, and I guess this is a question for all three of you because you were all there at the Monday Night Racing finale, and I'm pretty sure you were all competing in it. What's it like as a competitor in that live event feel where people are cheering and all sorts of crazy stuff's going around you? Does the lighting affect you? Does all the surroundings, all the environment, does that affect you as a driver while driving the virtual sim rig?
No,
Go
no.
ahead, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like lighting up, and Ford can see it. Like as I like say this, I mean, look, like I'm someone personally, like 29 years old, grew up as a diehard NASCAR motorsports fan, but just never really was going to have the opportunity. It's a hard sport to break into. I probably don't have to explain that to this audience. And you know, my life and career went into a different direction. But like growing up, like you know, we all dreamed of being a race car driver. And I think you know, competing in that event that day and being on both kind of the leadership side of the coin beforehand and then going into the competitor side, there's just such an interesting mix of emotions coming out of that. And as a competitor, it's the closest that somebody who doesn't race in real life is ever going to get to like kind of that feeling of racing in front of a real crowd. And there's even really kind of a step further because in a real life, you know, call it maybe stock car race, whether it's a local short track or even a NASCAR event, once you're in the car, you have no real concept of kind of what's going on around you. What's so different about the esports event is you're competing right there. And at the M&R event, we had literally people were able to come right up behind us during the course of the event, right before the race. So like they're coming right up to the field of play effectively. And that energy, you could just feel it as a driver. I mean, we had a driver introductions out there as well. And that type of energy is just so, you can't replicate that with everybody just racing from their home. That's only something that you can have in a live environment. And I would even argue there's advantages that I kind of hinted at before that even kind of make it more immersive for the competitor than if you're in a real race car. When you're in that real race car, you're isolated, but that feeling goes away. It almost feels like you're competing like a basketball game or something with all the crowd and everybody that's there right on top of you. You can hear their cheers and what they're saying. And I remember with about 10 laps to go, I was running like 8th or 9th, and I was probably like 10 or 11 seconds behind the leader, so I couldn't even see what was going on. And I could tell that the championship was up for grabs in the final laps of the race because I could hear the crowd through my headset. And it was electric. Like I wanted to get up from my seat and just see what was going on as a competitor. So just an amazing mix of emotions and all certainly positive. And I definitely hope that whether it's us or a much more prestigious league like the Coke Series with the best of the best on the service, I'd love to see more of these types of events. And I definitely feel like kind of the power players in this world are trending in that direction.
It was probably the most nervous I have ever been for an event as well. And I used to race for a long time. Like I raced, dirt cars, mini sprints, legend cars, summer shootout, like a couple short tracks. I can probably say just the environment of that event. Like, we had everything from the invocation to the national anthem to gentlemen, start your engines. It really felt like the environment was probably even more bigger than I felt personally than the summer shootout, or even before the race, before I was going for a championship at Millbridge for a mini sprint race. Like I felt like, wow, this feels like a big event. And And I know that like our team, the M&R leadership team, felt a lot tremendous pressure. Of like, hey, this is the first one. A lot of eyeballs. We're trying to see how we're going to pull this off. Just the reaction that we got after it was over by going, hey, the in-person event, that was incredible. That was awesome. Like, you guys really pulled out of the park. I mean, and obviously we couldn't do that without the fine folks, the CLT Phoenix and the Carolina Esports, how they did a tremendous job helping us out with that. The feedback from our drivers, we wanted to make them feel special, make them feel like, hey, this is like the event that you got to go to. Like, we ran the issue of, we try to get people to buy tickets ahead of time. And we had to, unfortunately, almost turn some people away just because people were trying to buy tickets at the door, and it was getting too late, and we were almost hitting capacity. So we never thought we were running into that type of issue, but everyone at Market Rebellion did a great job helping us out with that. But just the moment when they said, hey, the national anthem ended, we all got in our sim rigs, everyone got in their seats, and you just put like your gaming headset on. It's like, man, like it feels like you're putting your helmet on. Like, yeah. It's like, all right, now it's time to relax. It's game time. Let's worry about the actual race. This is what everybody came here to see. Let's put on a good race. And the guys all did a good job. I think everyone understood the assignment of, hey, let's have a clean race tonight. And we did. We had a relatively clean race, and everyone walked away from that. They were excited, and I think they had a good time. And I can't speak for David being on stage up there. Obviously, the rest of the guys were on the floor, but I know like a guy like David, Vargas, Cabot, and Fern probably had to feel some extra butterflies when the national anthem was going, for example.
It was surreal. It was absolutely surreal. I've never felt or experienced anything like that in my life. And especially for doing what we were doing in sim racing, again, as a primarily isolated hobby, to do it with a group of people, but not just a group of people, an audience, a large crowd of people making a lot of noise. We had the broadcast going. So there was it was like sensory overload, especially up on that stage. But you knew at the end of the day, you had to try and block all that out to focus on the task at hand and battle for a championship. And Matt was highlighting it earlier about 10 to go when Cabot closed in on me and we started really, throwing haymakers at each other down the backstretch. The crowd reaction, like I could hear that. There was no blocking that out. I couldn't make my headset loud enough to block that out. It was really, really awesome to hear that because, again, it made me feel like I was at the center of attention, which I'm usually not, and I'm okay with that, especially during, a sim race. So it was a rush. It was incredible. It's something I would love to experience again. And I think everybody feels that same way. But again, it showed a larger audience, people who've never seen anything like this before, maybe have their own perception of what sim racing is. A bunch of us in our basement, in a dark room, shying away from society, playing with fake race cars. But it showed them it's more dynamic than that. There's a lot more going on than that. And what the possibilities and potential are. So I think that's why it's important to have those. But to have that vantage point that I had from that live event, it was damn cool. I definitely want to do that again. It gives me a lot of motivation this season to try and make it back because I know y'all want to do it again. I want to be a part of it again.
And the last thing I would just add to that too, just to speak to the fan experience, like I had a bunch of people that came out, a lot of friends, many of which are just friends I've made in Charlotte who were not into racing and just kind of have other interests, and they came out, and it was the pre-race atmosphere, like because I had my rig kind of set up, and I know this was very similar with a lot of other people who brought people to the event. I had friends and even people I didn't know just coming up to my rig and being like, oh, like what does this do, like show me this like feature. And like it was so similar to almost like a real life driver showing off on pit lane, like okay, like this is this part of the car, like here's the pit, like it was that immersion. And some of those folks that came to the event still hit me up now, like when I put up content on from our league on Instagram or whatever, I'll have people reach out to me like, oh, where'd you finish this week? They want to follow along and like learn more, or they'll be like, hey, I watched the race, like I had a question about X, Y, and Z. Like, why did this? Like, and you can just feel it's so similar to real life racing, where the old mantra is, if I can get you to the racetrack, I have a fan for life. Like, that's what NASCAR and IndyCar and some of these big series will always say. And I felt like, oh my gosh, like that actually extends to this landscape too. So I think yeah, it was the beginning of something really cool. And I think the hope is that, maybe this is the beginning of sim racing developing its own niche within racing, where it kind of becomes like its own version of local short track racing, where you have guys that, I look at the Coke series, and I think that's kind of hopefully the future for that league, where there's guys that can make real money, and just by being a professional in that series. And I think in Monday Night Racing, we hope to kind of carve out our own niche in that landscape too.
Very,
Well, Toby,
cool.
you were a sponsor of that event. I mean, you're a sponsor of mine, but you also had a larger presence at the event. You spoke before the race as a featured partner and sponsor, and you have involvement in Monday Night Racing this season. So I would say I'll take over as interviewer here for a second. I want your perspective. I want you to talk about what it was like from your experience in the role that you were filling for that event.
I mean, it was unreal. Getting up on stage, kind of feeling how many people were there, getting a good bird's eye view of things was pretty incredible. I don't know what I expected going into it, but what I expected going into it wasn't what I saw. I saw a lot greater presence than what I expected especially for a first event. You expect a first event to kind of have some stumbling blocks going out of it, and there were a couple of miscues as far as like the broadcast having a hard time with it being a live event and all that stuff, but overall the event was pulled off incredibly well, and I think the turnout was just super incredible, and just from all the other partners that were there, all the drivers that were there, and like Ford mentioned, the networking aspect of things, it was a win from every aspect of the event, whether you were a sponsor, whether you were a driver, whether you were a fan there just trying to cheer on somebody. It was a really cool event.
I can say, and that one single night alone, just from the amount of tags from social, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, I could say at Twitter, from that one night alone, from everything that happened, we gained 700 followers in one night.
Yeah, I mean, that says a lot. Yeah. Well, hey guys, this has been good so far. Let's take another quick break real quick. We'll get back. We've got plenty more to talk about from the esports world here on Off the Record. Stay tuned. All right, we are back. Off the Record is back. David Schildhouse, Matthew Stallknecht, Matt over there, and Ford Martin, Toby Christie here as well. Let's talk about some stuff here with the virtual racing as well, because a lot of people there's like the misconception out there that people just, come down from eating a Hot Pocket upstairs. They go down to the basement like David was talking about earlier. They get in there and they fire off some laps. They put somebody in the wall in lap one and it's all done. But let's talk about what you guys actually do. Let's talk about the actual method of the madness for the people that are actually, competing in this sport. It's not just to walk into the sim rig, bust out a couple laps and be done with it, right?
My process really depends on a number of factors. What is the overall perceived difficulty? If we're talking about Monday Night Racing specifically, our schedule of events, we don't follow like a NASCAR schedule. We have unique combinations. That's one of the best parts about Monday Night Racing and sim racing is you can do things, track and car wise that you couldn't do in the real world. Like last week we did Mazda Miata MX-5s at Martinsville, and this week we're going to be doing off-road trucks at Watkins Glen. And so there's really no preparing for that. Yeah, there's a practice session that goes up about an hour before green flag, and that's what's called, the official practice. So people will jump in there and if they, care to, try and get the feeling of what we're trying to accomplish. Other combinations are going to require a little more time. There's some races where I put in, hours of practice on my own separately just to make sure that I had it dialed in because I knew it was a higher degree of difficulty. But, for me, I have a day job. I work from home. I'm an accountant. I work remotely. And so I'm sitting in my office, my studio doubles as one and the same, where I work and where I sim race. And so I always have my sim rig in front of me. It's just on the other side of all my monitors here. And so it's constantly staring at me, like tempting me to jump in there and turn some laps. And it's always in the back of my mind. Yeah, I could do a little more practice, but I gotta take care of my priorities first. But as soon as the workday is done, I can jump into the sim rig, fire up iRacing and get to cutting laps. Sometimes I allow myself more time. Sometimes I don't. But for me, I want to, go out there and win every race that I can. And so I'm a big believer in the way you practice is the way that you're going to race. Some guys go into a practice session, doesn't seem like they take it too seriously, and they go out in the race and it looks like it. I go out there, I try to practice as perfectly as I can, focus on qualifying because qualifying is very important. The less people you have to pass, the better off you are. So if I can spend 20, 30 minutes just practicing nothing but qualifying to try and consistently hit that lap over and over and over again that I know is going to get me up front, that makes the race that much easier. Then I can focus on, discovering what the race pace is, saving tires, whatever it may be.
And I can vouch for David's seriousness of it, because when he has a bad run, I hear about it. I mean, I hear about it for weeks almost. It seems like it's like, hey man, it's okay. He's like, I'm so sorry. No, you're fine. You're fine, David. It's okay. So it's interesting to see how much that sticks with him when he has a bad run in a virtual race as well. You wouldn't expect it to really grind somebody's gears that much. But I've run some iRacing in the past and stuff like that, and it does. It gets your blood pumping. If you're in position to win a race late in the race, yeah, you feel butterflies and you want to, pull it off. Your heart starts pounding a little harder, and it's a hard situation to understand when you haven't done it and you just see people doing it. You think it's a video game and no big deal, but there are stakes on the line. People always want to win, and especially when you're super competitive and you're up there in the mix all the time. It becomes a bigger thing where you just want to close the deal as much as possible. So it's interesting to see for sure.
And also to kind of add some color to kind of what David said, like everybody in the league and in the session itself is running a fixed setup. And those that are not familiar with it, that means everybody's running the same exact setup. So it all comes down to just skill. So you can really tell the guys that have practiced, put in the time, put in the work. I'll take, for example, like a guy last week in Mike Clay. He does ESPN fantasy football, kind of one of our, celebrity racers within Monday Night Racing. And, all week last week, he was telling me, hey, how do I run this race car or Miata? Need some help and advice and everything. He kept working on it. And Mike, to be honest with you, you probably see him hovering around the 20th to 30th place, around that area almost every week. And here's a guy that was up there, qualified 9th. Unfortunately got taken out in his heat and missed the race, got taken out in the LCQ as well. But I mean, that's probably the best Mike's ever run in a qualifying session, and he put in the work and effort into it. And I know he's doing the same for this week. And but it really comes down, it's a fixed setup. Everyone has the same exact setup, and it comes down to who's practiced. And you can really tell when you go to these road course races, who's putting the work, who's putting the effort. And especially this week with the Pro 2s of Watkins Glen, you can tell who's putting that practice. Because it's really easy to overdrive these cars, go off course. So you'll be able to tell around about the 4th, 5th lap who's been putting in the work, and I think it's going to be a great race this weekend as well.
I can think of some people who probably should meditate before our races, and maybe
you want to
during
name some
them.
names or no?
Come on, David.
Oh, are we going down this route already?
Let's cause some beef, man. Let's have it carry over.
Oh, brother, listen, just last week, Miatas in Martinsville, I think there was a couple dudes who needed some kumbayas and a peace circle. Landon Huffman, Raj Caruth, probably two. I haven't heard two men bitch at each other while they're not even racing more than I did in between the heats, heat 1 and heat 2, or the heat 2 and the LCQ, I think it was. I mean, my God, you don't hear that much complaining in Moon Car, but those two were at each other over nothing more than anything. It was pretty funny because Landon's still pretty new to Monday Night Racing. He just came around at the end of last season. He's no stranger to sim racing. Obviously, he's a well-known quantity, and he and Raj certainly know each other. But just to hear them going at it over nothing, and we hadn't even started racing yet. That tells you everything you need to know about Monday Night Racing. Is we will get at each other over the smallest of things when we're still not even racing, because it means a lot. And I think Ford talked about that earlier. To do well in Monday Night Racing really is a feather in the cap for a sim racer. It's a unique league, and you don't want to feel like anything's been taken from you. You want everything to go your way. And when somebody, gets between you and success, it creates friction. And that's, I think, one of the more entertaining parts of the league. But yeah, meditation. Maybe that's what we got to do pre-race for it, is a pre-race meditation session.
Yeah, we could probably get some some sounds and then leave it on the game speaker, and we could really get everyone to deep breath.
Everyone downloads maybe Headspace can be our new Monday night.
Opportunity.
Get the Calm app. Get the Calm app featuring David Schildhouse on a commercial.
Could be the Headspace pre-race show.
No, but I think also, like, as much as I hate it when guys are kind of going at each other, and Matt's in the same Discord channel. I mean, it bothers me. I'm like, man, like, come on, like, but it's part of being an owner. You want things to go smoothly. You want guys to go and have a fun time, but I always got to tell myself and remind myself, like, hey, like, this is a competitive league. You saw what we did with the championship event last season. Everyone's here, you know, trying to go for that spot. They want to be the guy on the stage. They want to be the guy that walks out. Here's your championship 4 featuring person X. Like, that's what it's all about. And, you know, sometimes it'll get under my skin. Like, all right, guys, come on, like, let's calm down here. What are we doing? But at the same time, it's like, these guys are so competitive. They're all racers. They race in real life. Some guys are crew chiefs. Some guys are spotters. Everybody that's in this league is a super competitive person. If you're not competitive, you're not going to go very far within this league. And that's what makes, you know, M&R truly special.
Definitely. It's really cool to see the passion all the way around. Let's take one last break. We'll come back and kind of wrap things up with you guys. We could fill probably like 7, 8, 20 shows within an entire year with you guys. So maybe we'll have to bring you back for some more on this, but let's come back one last segment after this. All right, we're back, and this is it. We're going to wrap it up here. Esports edition of Off the Record. David Schildhouse, Matt Stallknecht, Ford Martin. Obviously, you guys are making huge strides to bringing this to be a professional sports league at this point. And I think the online presence and the broadcast presence of it really showcases that you guys are really trying to give this a true real life feel. Even though it's a virtual game. I think that's going to be really cool to keep an eye on going forward. But for this time, I think we're good. We've talked about a lot of things, but we could keep going for several hours. So we'll definitely have to have you guys back on, talk more esports at some point. But David Schildhouse, Matt Stallknecht, Ford Martin, thank you guys so much for coming on Off the Record. And thanks to everyone for watching this. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys. And one last thing I want to say is thanks to everybody at Interstate Batteries. You know, Boris Cook, he's been helpful getting us that. I can't go without saying again, Josh Mendoza, race control. That dude goes through a lot.
He goes through a bash every week.
Paul Sutton, Dakota Curtis, you know, John Theodore, Ryan Bauer, you know, all these guys that are, you know, our Blake McCandless, Jacob Pitts, Kenneth Bueno. I want to make sure those guys are mentioned. They've been a huge part of growing and of the success of M&R along with Podium as well.
Excellent.
And of course, if you want to learn more about Monday Night Racing, go to mondaynighracing.com or follow Monday Night Racing on Twitter.
Hey, and you know, TobyChristie.com does some race recaps about you guys too. That's good.
There you go.
Thank you guys. This has been Off the Record. We appreciate you.